I'm trying not to be savage here.
Be savage.
I'm having a hard time because I love Halloween Horror Nights.
What's up, guys? This is Bree.
Mike
from Fracture Compass Productions, and today we have Kyle joining us. We have gone through the Halloween season. It is finally over and we are very sad, but I wanted to give it some time to really kind of like dwell and think about each Halloween event and how it was and what won, what lost, and I didn't want to do it right away. I think we figured like we would just give it some time because hindsight is 20/20. When you're in the moment, you're like, "Woo, this is amazing!" And then you got a week or two to think about it, and sometimes you're like, "Wow,
it gave us time to clear our mind and like really figure out like what was good."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we all three went to the three main events, which was Queen Mary's Dark Harbor, Knott Scary Farm, and Universal Studios Horror Nights over here in Hollywood. Mike ended up going to Universal Studios Horror Nights Orlando, so he will be talking about that. And I actually went to Mickey's Halloween party.
That counts.
And I guess that counts. That will be, and I'll talk about that. Did you go to anything extra, or were you just stuck in your maze?
No, I was too dead after being in the maze.
Too dead after
You know what kind of dawned on me is that we didn't do Haunted Hayride, but I plan on doing that next year. We just didn't find the time for it.
A little bit sore about that.
I'm a little sore because we were not supposed to be working Wednesday the 24th, and that was actually Haunt Night where Universal and Dark Harbor came over to basically Knott's, and then you were over in Orlando, which I'm not going to blame you because it's freaking Orlando.
Yeah. Vacation, so.
But yeah, I'm a little sad that I didn't get to go to Hayride because it was their 10th anniversary, and I don't even know if it was a good event or not, and I haven't even watched any videos of it. Have you?
No, and that's
I haven't
why
even heard anything about it actually.
No.
That's why I think Haunted Hayride is really special for us, because it's like that's such like an event that's not covered. So like, we kind of, at least I know I do, is I watch the maze previews and like I watch POVs and stuff and kind of get a feel, but I don't watch any of that for Haunted Hayride. So when I do go to Haunted Hayride, it's all just like, ooh, this is all new. I haven't seen any of this,
It's all brand new.
So I'm really bummed that we didn't make it this year, but next year for sure.
Yeah, because I know they have their famous jack-o'-lantern setup, but I think they had this whole kind of harvest pumpkins like thing that you like walked underneath, and again, I don't know if it was worth it. I don't know. I'll have to look it up at one point, but I tend to do like walking under like pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns, and I like
when you say like
all that
harvest,
stuff.
like you're like walking,
like you're like like if you were in the hollow. Okay, so like you're in the hollow, and you know how you walk underneath the trestle and they have the pumpkins like right there, like all the jack-o'-lanterns, and then you have like all the scarecrows. Like I think they did that, but they did it a little bit more, a little bit extra this year.
Wasn't? Okay, well I think we're getting off topic, sorry.
Okay.
Hold on, quick note too. There were some other events that looked really promising that I'm guessing just none of us got to check out because we were working. So Sinister Point was supposedly really cool. Keep an eye out for them. I heard Evil on 2 was really interesting. Horror World with Into the Black and Gary Bones was really big also. So check those out. Reign of Terror. There's quite a few out here. You're not limited to these big events.
Yeah.
Oh, we were good. We have done 17th Door before as well. However, I was not a big fan of. Spoiler alert, they shock you a lot in that maze, and I really didn't like that, but I do think that 17 Door is very creative and very exciting, and I know you can like opt, like they make you sign a waiver, you can opt not to get shocked, but I just felt like it came to a point where they were like too much on scaring you by shocking you, and I just wasn't into it anymore. So that's why I didn't do it.
Projectiles too. I heard they had like little like soft pellet guns type things that they were shooting people with.
Okay, well you guys can do that next year.
I can't verify that.
No, it's not gonna go through that.
Maybe.
No, I don't know. Extreme haunts is a whole other subject, and I actually think that the 17th Door is a little bit tamer of the extreme haunts.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's a little more mainstream. But yeah, that's a whole other video.
A Candy Manor.
Alright. Oh my gosh. Let's not. No.
Okay, let's go. Sorry, we got off track. Okay, we're back.
Alright, so, you guys, let's talk about Queen Mary's Dark Harbor. Now, overall opinion, Mike.
I liked it.
Okay. I liked it as well. It was very entertaining. Kyle?
Same. It was good. There's a huge disparity in quality in their mazes, though.
Oh, for sure.
Alright.
That was one of the biggest things that, the 3 mazes that are on the ship were fantastic because they used the ship to its advantage. There are certain scenes where they didn't even need to put up any sets or anything because it's just a scary old ship, and they used that really well. But then you get to the 3 other mazes that are not on the ship and in the parking lot, and they tried, they put effort into it, but I think I'm just spoiled because I've been to Halloween Horror Nights, I've been to Knott's Scary Farm, and they do it so well that the mazes that weren't on the ship were just there wasn't a lot to see, especially in the what was the first one we went through?
Dead Rise.
The first
Dead
one
Rise.
Dead Rise.
It was essentially just a bunch of barrels and a bunch of netting. And okay.
And we had the private tour with the captain.
That was a highlight.
He just kind of walked us through.
And I think what was kind of what I noticed was, and like I said in the Dark Harbor video, that there wasn't a whole lot of scare actors, and I don't know if that's because it was during November time, maybe, they just started leaving or quitting or whatever, they didn't want to be a part of it. Because I do remember when I went to the Queen Mary a couple years ago, and it was like peak season. I think we went mid-October. There were scare actors at every other corner. So I think just maybe because that's something that you have to deal with. If you go in November time, you may not see as much scare actors. But I still liked it. What about you?
So essentially the same thought. I will say that Intrepid was one of the mazes that wasn't on the ship. Actually had a huge amount of attention to detail paid to it, and I think that one kind of stood head and shoulders above the other 2, Circus and Dead Rise. I don't know about you guys, but I felt like that one actually had more set dressing than the on-ship mazes too. It's just that it didn't get the ambience of having the ship there already.
Which one was Intrepid again?
The train one.
So
that one was good.
Where you went into the catacombs and stuff.
Yeah, that one was that one. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
So our overall opinion of the haunt, because we'll get into atmosphere and we'll talk about mazes and everything, but the overall opinion was, yes, you should go.
Yeah.
If you can.
It was positive.
It was positive. But what about the atmosphere and scare zones as you walk into Dark Harbor?
Atmosphere and scare zones non-existent really to me. I mean, they had some lighting and stuff. I do think that the scare actors were fantastic. I do think that overall it was very carnival kind of themed and stuff like that, but there was no real scare zones,
right,
if that makes sense.
So
it was just kind of a lot of lighting all around, but there was no I'm in a haunted place right here, not Scary Farm and Halloween Horror Nights does. That's not to say the scare actors didn't do a good job.
Atmosphere.
So I think the carnival thing by itself kind of is an atmosphere, just because they have the stages with the acrobats and the stage with the fire spinners and things like that. It's kind of all lending itself to that, and almost every actor we saw was in some variation of clown type makeup. But I will say you're right, it doesn't feel like a scare zone like the other places. It felt like a lot more one-on-one interactions with actors when you found them that were a lot more detailed. So I know that we had a guy that wanted us to sing with him, we had somebody that wanted us to give them something out of our wallets. There was a bunch of small interactions like that you don't get at other parks that I think were really cool. And that's worth noting. If you want to go and actually maybe talk to a monster, or spend a little bit more time one-on-one than you're going to get at Knott's or Universal, I think Queen Mary is great for that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
We had, and of course we have, and on the video, we have that girl clown that was just with us for almost 10 minutes, and she actually did the outro, and I feel like she was just why can't Shippy and Matt get this outro? Because she got it.
And it was funny, so we ran into her when we were just all, the whole group, we went in a really big group to Dark Harbor, which we probably will never do again. Not because it was, it's just big groups can sound like, there's people all over the place.
Hard.
It's just logistically hard. Doesn't mean that, anyone in the group is bad. Anyway, so we were all kind of split up, and that monster, this like clown girl, she spent like a solid 25 minutes just talking to me and another friend of ours, and she ended up just giving like, here's a drink token, like for a secret bar. And I thought that was just so cool that she took the 25 minutes to really like make our experience awesome. Which I loved. You're never going to get that at Halloween Horror Nights or Scary Farm, and it's not their fault. Like, they're just, Scary Farm, I feel like maybe has more attendance, and so they have more ground to cover, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's a little more free in Dark Harbor, and I feel, because at Knott Scary Farm and at Universal, you are that person. If your character would interact like that, then so be it. But if you are, a person in an insane asylum, if you are a demon, if you are this, would you be interacting like that with a normal person? Probably not. And the number one thing is you have to stay in that character.
Yeah.
And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you even have a gag order that you're not to talk to anything. You are to scare, and you are to make noises, and you are to, do that, but you cannot really do what the Queen Mary and Dark Harbor atmosphere characters can do. And that's, literally spend 25 minutes just holding your microphone or talking with you or giving you tokens to a secret bar. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that they're not doing the bad job either. It just means that Queen Mary just operated a little differently.
That's what the event is. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that Scary Farm doesn't do it any better,
No, and I just think that is what they are allowed to do, and that is something that you are not going to get anywhere else. And if that's something that you want, you can take pictures with them and do whatever you want with them, within reason. But then you should definitely go to the event, because you're gonna find a more freer. Oh, stop yourself! I'm gonna see it on camera.
You will.
I saw like I'm free. I'm like, I see power doing whatever.
So we kind of touched on mazes. Then what was your favorite maze?
I really liked the Scary Mary one.
Lullaby?
Lullaby.
And what was your favorite maze?
I like B340.
B340. Why'd you like Lullaby?
Little girls just scare me.
They're just.
And so I think I got scared the most in that one. All three on the ship got me pretty good. There was always one really good solid scare because it's just so dark. But I just think little girls in white dresses are freaky, especially when they talk about cutting off my face and putting it on a teddy bear.
And you liked B340 because?
I feel like it had weird scenes thrown into it that were like way heavier than the rest of the tone of the maze, and it made it feel really, I don't want to say uneven because it still felt very structured, but that opening scene with the gunshot victim was like, more real than anything else.
That was intense.
Yeah, that was like super.
And like that interspersed with felt like almost like Shining style like whimsy. You felt it in some of the hotel rooms where you're like walking in and like seeing something you weren't supposed to see, and like weird stuff like that. That felt strange to me. And then it had probably the most striking use of the ship where you walked down on the catwalk and you were like several stories above the empty part of the ship.
That was great.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and then like the bridge kind of like just dropped a little. I was like, okay, like.
If you guys think that the height of that bridge was fake, it's not.
No, you are high.
That is the height of the bridge.
And they do this thing where like the floor just kind of drops a little bit, and it's just enough to get you just like, oh. That was good. I totally forgot that was in that maze. That was a lot of fun.
The B340 maze is pretty good.
What was yours?
I think my favorite maze, sweet Jesus, I don't know. I would go with Lullaby. But the only thing that I didn't like about Lullaby was that you went into a secret bar at one point, and it almost
didn't have the choice to go.
Yeah, you didn't have the choice. You had to go into that, and it kind of brought me out of it for a moment, and then like I had to like get myself back in. But I think I had the most fun in that maze, and I think that was like the best maze out of all of them. but except for the bar part, I was like, that kind of brought me out. Because every other bar inside the mazes was secret. Like, it was tucked away.
I got lost in one.
Yeah, and you didn't have to go through it. But in Lullaby, you were just, oh, we're in a bar.
It's like scary scene, oh, a bunch of people socializing and drinking cocktails, scary scene, and it was just like it took you out of it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that like the bars weren't used well. Like, you know, what was the carnival maze? That one, you know, the monster was like, you get in there, and then like he just made me go in through this little curtain, and then I was in the secret bar.
And you were behind bars.
He didn't tell me how to get out. I was like, because like they covered it with bookcases behind me, and I wasn't even paying attention. So then I was like, well, where's the exit? And I saw like through like the bars, like Jackie and Bree like outside like looking for me, and I was like, I'm still in the maze. I don't know how to get out.
That was funny.
Yeah,
that was funny.
So that made that maze for me. I was like, well, that was cool, you know.
So what maze did you get most scared in though? Like, what was your best scare? Was it Lullaby or was it something else?
I think it was Lullaby. Was Lullaby? Now, forgive me, guys. I'm sorry because my memories. Was Lullaby the one where it was that dark hallway, and then there was that guy that was like kind of positioned up towards the roof, and then you would turn on the light, and then all of a sudden you would see him? What one was that?
Was that B340?
I think that was.
I think that was B340.
Okay,
Well, I think he had one of the masks on that was like the withered, like long face that they were using in that
one.
That was in B340.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a certain scene that got me really good where you're going through this dark corridor on the ship, not lit at all, pitch black. You kind of had to like feel ahead to like make sure you're not running into a wall, and then all of a sudden there would be a scare actor, and he was kind of like positioned over you, and he would just like switch on a light or some sort, and you just see him, and no sound effects needed, no like nothing. It was just very simple and effective, and that one got me really well because all of a sudden I just see this guy right next to my face, all lit up, and that one was really, really clever.
Now, I know you're hard to scare, but
you are hard to scare.
Like,
there were actually two that got me really good.
Okay.
There was one in Feast who was doing maybe something that you wouldn't do if like a blackout or somebody involved with a staff walkthrough, but he actually climbed up over a bulkhead, like bodily was entirely up over the top of a door. I don't know how he was acrobatic enough to climb up there, but he did. And we were walking through, and a hand just came up from the door down in front of my face, and there was nowhere for him to be up there. He was just holding himself up like an acrobat. That was crazy to me. The other one that got me was in Intrepid, the ghillie suit monster, who was doing a very similar thing to the swamp effect we had in the depths, who came up from out of the lasers. He got me just because I knew it was there. I was 100% ready for it, but he got like this close to my face, and like that gets me. That glove was like here on my eye, and I was like, nope. that guy got to get.
He's like, you flinch or you get hit.
Yeah.
you're like,
one of us is moving.
Yeah.
right. The worst part, and this was true fear, this wasn't even a jump scare, is I have issues with tight spaces sometimes. And when the Feast guy was like, get inside the grinder.
Oh yeah.
And it was like this tiny little cube area that you had to crawl through. I was like, I actually started to like panic a little bit, and like, I was just like looking for another way out, and I was like, well, I guess I have to go through the grinder. So I was like crawling through the grinder, and you like, in the floor was clear, and you can see the grinding piece, like, you know, the grinder pieces, obviously.
Oh, you could see down, because I wasn't able to go through that
Yeah,
path,
so obviously it was fake, but yes. Yeah, there was saws and grinders as you're like climbing it on, like, and it's clear so you can see it, and then you had to slide down, and the chef was right there. But yeah, I had a mild little panic attack because I was just like, it's too small. It's too small. I don't want to climb through there. And the same thing happened when I actually went into an actual cave, like 100 feet down underneath the ground, and I had to climb through a tiny space, and I was just like, I'm never gonna make it out of here. I'm just gonna die right here. Like,
that's it.
Yeah, but I can work myself through it, but I still kind of like, I get the willies sometimes. So let's talk about shows. Not really any. I mean, there are shows at Dark Harbor. But I feel like it's more atmospheric shows.
They feel almost impromptu and like you're meant to stumble onto them, and not like they're going to be built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to be walking into like the Elvira show. You're going to be walking down the street and you're going to see a guy doing marionettes with a weird little spider thing.
Yeah.
And you're going to be drawn over to the side here and watch that for 5 or 10 minutes.
But they had like little. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They had like from our like little cabana area, you could see like a stage, and they just had like multiple acts that would just go up there, and they would repeat throughout the night. But like I saw some girl hula hooping, and then I saw like fire breathing, and then I saw it was all like.
And it fit. That's what I kind of really like about Dark Harbor, is that the show adds the shows and these little impromptu vignettes and everything add to the atmosphere of this haunted ship, this real haunted ship that's in front of you, and their whole kind of dark carnival atmosphere that's going on around.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of fit.
If you say Dark Carnival too much, the Juggalos will show up.
Dark carnival. Dark carnival.
Stop it!
Oh, should I say
Stop! You're getting too real.
Should I say it a third time? All right. How did you like the talent? Did you like the talent?
Yeah, I love the talent. I thought the talent was very good. They gave it their all. Like even on the mazes, they were really selling it. I liked it. They seemed like they were having fun too, which I really. That like it kind of like it was infectious. It kind of went on to me. I was like, okay, they're like really, really like going hard, and it just made me enjoy it so much more.
Talent.
I'll agree with that. I feel like there were some places that needed talent that didn't have it. And there was one issue when we walked into Dead Rise. I was towards the front of the group, and me and a couple other people rounded a corner, and we saw 4 or 5 talent just standing there kind of talking, kind of smoking and joking with some of the security and like line control there. And that was a strange experience. It's like we stared at each other for about 10 seconds and we're like, oh, you're, and then they tried to scare us and came at us. But it was like a very like broke it for a second.
Yeah.
It was weird. Other than that, they were in it. They were doing pretty good. They needed to be spaced a little differently, but that's not on the talent. That had to do with whoever was running the maze. There were some mazes that felt like they were way too dense in some parts, and there was like nothing in other parts, and maybe we should have shifted that a little bit.
Yeah.
Overall, they were good.
And maybe that was also because there weren't as many people. Like maybe some people were just like, oh, it's Halloween, we're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree that there were like patches of a maze where I was like, is there anyone going to come out at us at all?
You're like, and on the ship, that's fine. Because you're like walking through the ship and you're just like,
it's scary anyway.
It's scary in itself. I mean, it's the Queen Mary. But in the mazes on the outside, you're kind of like, there any monsters on your monster tour?
I really hate that man. No, but like a good example of that was that there was one scene in the maze where it was just the propeller room, and you could just see the propeller.
Yeah.
And I slipped. No, but you can see the propeller, and I was like, this is amazing. There was not a single scare actor. It wasn't even themed.
Didn't need it.
All I needed to see was that propeller in the water, and I was like, that's wonderful.
And the fact that we know that there's stories of people that have drowned actually died in that room.
I did not know that.
So there's that.
Well then.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you guys watch our other videos of our actual ghost hunts on things, you will know where people have died on that ship, and where we walked, there have been deaths. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my memory right now.
No, you're fine. You haven't been to any of those. Well, you've been to them, but you went on by yourself.
Yeah.
All right. So, price of Dark Harbor. Do you think it's overall worth it?
I think it's not unless you go to Costco and get their little deal. It was $80 for 2 people plus fright lane or something, right? Like we skipped the lines.
Yeah, fast fright.
Yeah. Fright lane, something. But yeah, like $80 for 2 people. Don't wait on any lines. I think absolutely that was worth it. But now the prices online and on their website, I would not. I mean, I wouldn't pay for it.
It was without the Costco deal. It would have cost you $86 with fees for what we had.
Is that for 2 people or just one person?
Just one person.
No. I'm not trying to be mean. I want to give you guys my honest opinion.
Absolutely.
And that, other people disagree, but I do think if you're going to go to Dark Harbor and you have that Costco membership, buy the tickets through Costco. It is so worth it, and you save so much money.
1 out of 5 people in America have a Costco membership. Ask your neighbor.
That's a weird statistic to know.
I'm just saying. I don't know. No, I don't. I'm just saying. You guys agreed with me, but I just made that up. But I'm just saying. I'm like, okay, raise your hand. Who has a Costco membership in here? And there's 4 people in the room. Okay?
Hey, no, he raised his hand.
Well,
Anywho, but like, so I would not spend any more than 80 bucks on it for
basically
people.
$40 for for the one ticket for the thing, and I agree. $90 for going through that, it's a bit much. It's not a theme park. It's not, you're not getting anything else but that Halloween event.
Yeah.
But I do think that you can not pay for the front of the line and get in for like $26, and if you like waiting in an hour line for things or more, then that's fine. Like, then it's worth it.
Yeah, that's just not how we roll. Like,
Yeah,
we want to ensure that we can hit up everything in an event, because we've been to Halloween events where we have not gotten front of the line or express or anything, and it's awful sometimes. Yeah. Like, you can only ride 2 things and then you feel like you missed out. So we will always go that route where we get that just as kind of insurance, even if we know it's not going to be too busy.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So.
Hold on, one closing note about that too. I'm
What's
gonna
that?
interrupt you again.
No.
Parking for Dark Harbor is a
horrendous. That was probably the biggest negative, and that was what I noticed, a consistent comment that every single person in our group made was, what a nightmare.
Please, Dark Harbor, figure it out. We didn't run into too bad of an issue, but one person in our group did get turned away from the place where they said they were supposed to park, and then they had to park somewhere else. Bring cash only if you go to this event, because like if you park in the parking lots, they don't take credit card, and a lot of the vendors take credit card, but it's just probably better to have cash. But the night that we went, you guys, and you can read the article out there, there was people who parked in the Aquarium of the Pacific parking structure. One of the shuttles that they got on went rogue, and they went 30 minutes out of their way, and the driver didn't stop, and people were busting out the window basically because they thought they were getting kidnapped, and he finally stopped in the city of Carson. That
happened?
You didn't know? Oh yeah, it happened the night we went. One of basically people got. I'm not going to say as far as they got kidnapped.
Did they explain what he was trying to do? Or?
Nope.
Well, he said he didn't know where to park. He was looking for somewhere to park to get people off, but I don't think at any point in time was he even near the ship.
No,
Carson's far off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a journey back.
He went half hour. They drove a half hour, and somebody stood up to him finally and said, in fact, I think the guy who stood up to him actually is a monster at Not Scary Farm, and said, you need to stop this bus, this is kidnapping at this point, and he punched him in the stomach, and the guy flew back, and he kept driving. Did you not know that happened? That happened.
So, okay.
So please.
We are going to be, parking. Maybe not as much for those people, and I'm not trying to make that's a really serious situation.
Yeah.
But putting that in perspective, that makes me not want to go to Dark Harbor unless they say you can park on site.
And
because there's plenty of parking on site. I don't know why.
Something must have happened, and I don't know why, because last year I parked on site. And other nights there was on-site parking. It's just they don't have a big parking lot. But other nights there was on-site parking. It was like $40 to $50 to park.
Yeah, I'll pay that
on site. But I'll park there because I don't want to ride a bus or a shuttle. And not that I mind riding a bus or a shuttle, but when stuff like that happens, and obviously a company can't be held responsible for one of their employees all of a sudden going rogue. Okay, sure. That's on that person. That's not on the company. That's not on Dark Harbor. That's not on anything. But with that set aside, there were people who almost had to, they spent 2 hours just trying to park and get on a bus and get to the Queen Mary before they even got on site.
I cannot, it's crazy. All right, so overall, what would you give a rating for Queen Mary? I'm going to say a solid 6.5 out of 10, and I'm not, that might seem more harsh than what it is, but I do think that there definitely are areas to improve in Queen Mary, and I'm hoping to see those improvements as we go along, and I'm still I loved it. Queen Mary was fantastic,
Yes.
but there were a lot of components for me that just didn't sit right. There were a lot of components for me that did sit right, and overall I'm going to have to say it was a solid 6.5, kind of teetering maybe on a 7 for that event.
I agree. About a 6.5. I mean, set aside with prices and everything and parking, overall I did have a great time at the event.
Yeah, it was fun.
Like, it was very fun. Thank you to Andre Palafox for setting up our cabanas and everything, and giving us tokens to the bars and everything like that. That was awesome. So he gets a major shout out from us.
I feel like I was actually like a little bit higher on it than you guys were, but that's just because I went in with like almost no expectations. I had no idea what they even did there. So I was gonna go for like a 7 to a 7.5, but with that in mind, the stuff around the experience that's negative, like the parking, like some of the mazes not being up to snuff, that does really bring it down. Like I said, the ship stuff I was really not prepared for, and it's really cool.
It is. So we will be revisiting the Queen Mary because I love the Queen Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Despite everything about it, I love the Queen Mary, and they're redoing their Ghosts and Legends tour with all the theatrics and everything like that. So
Must do.
yeah, they had it running forever and then they stopped it, and then they're going to be bringing it back soon. So we will definitely be going to that because I want to see it.
I've never been. I want to go.
And you need to. Yeah.
I didn't know
We
that
should
existed
stay.
until
We should
today.
stay the night.
We should.
We should, because I don't want to drive back in that traffic.
Yeah, right.
We should. All right, so let's move on to Not Scary Farm. All right, now I'm gonna have an unbiased opinion. As much as I can.
I think, in all honesty, the most unbiased opinion here is probably going to be from
It's probably
moi,
for you.
because
No, it's not true. I didn't like the depths.
He's more worldly than us. Hey,
Just kidding.
look,
he has some fighting words.
he's old. It's must.
Oh, it's falling apart. Okay, so overall opinion
I'm
of
gonna
Not
let you guys
Scary Farm.
you two just hash it out.
We're just
Fight
like,
for a while.
Yeah.
so
Lose, it's okay.
no overall opinion, Mike.
I love Not Scary Farm, and not just because I saw you guys and I know Kyle and I know all of them and it was exciting. Not Scary Farm for me is always like a go-to place. It's so close, so like it's close to my house in general too. So like I feel like, oh, you know what? If I want to go to Not Scary Farm tonight, I can go, and it's just convenient. But what I really loved about this year is not only did they have 2 new mazes, which was great, but just how easy they made everything. There was no problems with parking. There was no problems going in with your wristband to front of the line, fright lane or something. I can go as many times as I wanted. I truly felt that when I went to Not Scary Farm, that like it was my playground. I could do whatever I want as many times as I want, and I loved that for the price that I paid, I got exactly what I wanted. That's why I think that's just the main part. Now, if we're looking at the mazes and everything like that.
We'll get to that.
Oh,
What was your overall opinion?
I mean, Knott's is my first big theme park con I ever went to when I was like 11 or 12 years old, so Knott's is probably always going to be my favorite no matter what. And it is a biased opinion. I couldn't give you an unbiased opinion.
That's true.
and you guys did so good this year.
It's pretty great for.
You guys did though. You guys did really good this year. I was so happy to see you guys and your craft.
I know. Atmosphere and scare zones for Not Scary Farm. I have an opinion about this.
My honest opinion, I loved it.
You like all the atmosphere
Well,
and
you
scare
know
zones?
what? So usually Ghost Town is like, oh, Ghost Town is going to be.
Ghost Town.
But for this year, surprisingly, the Hollow at Camp Snoopy was amazing, and I think beat Ghost Town this year. There's one place that I wish that they would just add more to, and it's the clown area near Accelerator, the boardwalk.
Carnival.
Yeah. I want them to add more theming to it, maybe some more fog and stuff like that. So that's always my lowest one.
Okay.
But usually it's Ghost Town, and this year it was the Hollow. The Hollow was amazing.
Okay, Kyle?
I didn't get to walk most of the park and experience scare zones that much. I'm mostly the same opinion. I feel like Carnival needs a rework. It just needs to feel more atmospheric over there. They've been taking steps to add little showpieces to every zone, but that's the one that I think needs the most overhaul.
Okay. For me, obviously, Ghost Town is amazing. The Hollow is amazing. And the Hollow started out very, very low on the scale, and people were like, what is this? And it is went from infancy up to a real contender now, and so it's really good for me. Those got to be my two favorite. Carnival with the clowns, like I said, like, yeah, it needs to be reworked. Something needs to, but I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of one of those things where I just kind of walk through it, and there's the clowns, you know.
Yeah.
There's nothing really like, ooh, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's just the clowns.
Say, I didn't really get to see Forsaken Lake because obviously I was acting. But one time
I was disappointed in that so much.
So Forsaken Lake.
I wanted Forsaken. Now, here's the thing. I went on opening night and I did not go after that, so they may have changed it. So this is just an opinion from opening night.
Okay.
There was no lighting. It was so dark and hard to see those little sets that they had. Mm-hmm. There was no fog. There was just no theatricality to it. Okay. So I was so disappointed in Forsaken Lake, and I wanted it to be good because that theme and that concept was great. Now, the scare actors did good. Mm-hmm. But did they change it? Did they add lighting to it?
They did, and that's why I was telling people in other videos, you know, if you go opening night or you go opening week, you might want to invest in that pass so you can go like the third week, because
that's my fault.
We do work on stuff throughout the season. It just doesn't stop like opening night and we're done. Yeah. A lot of things aren't done, and a lot of things do get added throughout the season. And Forsaken Lake, I feel like it got hyped up so hard.
Yes.
And when you watch the opening ceremonies for the reveal, and they had the procession come down, and they had the song being played, and you saw it, and you were just like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. And then when you walked into the scare zone, you were kind of like, ooh, this is it. Like it was like it was very, very like a gauntlet. Which actually, when my mom went through it, she got really scared because it was like a gauntlet, and there was a lot of scare actors when I went through it, and you went through. But I want to say that Forsaken Lake is in its infancy.
Of course,
just
yeah.
like the Hollow was. And like the Hollow, the first year, everybody's like, boo, Hollow. And now it's like, whoa, the Hollow.
Yeah.
You know? And so I just want to think it's in an infancy, and I want to put it out there, Scary Farm, if anybody's watching, because I know you guys are watching this channel. But, you know, if we could, and I don't know what you guys have designed, the designers have in store, but it needed like fog on the lake. It needed maybe
exactly.
Maybe if you could put like an actual like rotting city or tombstones or something inside the lake itself.
Yeah,
you know, and kind of surround that a little more, then you would have been like, oh yeah, the lake receded and there's the town and the people came out, you know, to like drag people back. Like
there's no theatricality to it. It was just like a few sets on the sidewalk, which again, just one opening night. This is opening night opinion, and I know that it probably changed, but I am very excited to see what they do next year with it, because they already have the sets, and they're just going to build, and I know that's how Scary Farm works. Very excited.
Yeah, I just feel like it was hyped, and then we were here in the reality, you know, expectation, reality, but it's still in an infancy, so I feel like it's going to come up to that hype, and that is my hope for it, because it is, and I still think it is a really good concept.
I love their costumes every time I saw them too. Like, I can't give you a good opinion. I saw it like maybe once, and it was towards the end of the night, and there was almost nobody in the zone already, because that is what it is. But every time I saw them in backstage, they look really good.
They do.
Their costumes are great.
They do, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. It's just this year I was kind of like,
And it's not to say the scare actors didn't do a good job.
No.
We're just strictly talking about.
I'm just talking about the overall feel and look. We're not talking about the actors. At all.
Scare actors, you guys did great.
Yeah.
It was just, you know.
It's just like when you walk into the Hollow, you're walking into the Hollow. When you walk into Ghost Town, you're walking into Ghost Town.
That's almost not fair.
I know it's not fair. I know, but you know, and even Carnival, you're kind of walking into this weird kind of carnival because they've got all the lights and stuff and like the clowns. You're still kind of surrounded in the atmosphere, and they don't really add a lot of stuff to Carnival. I mean, it's literally just lights. And then, but I mean, you know, you've got a giant hang time roller coaster now with a lighting package. And
Looks great at night, by the way.
yeah, it looks amazing. And what are they playing? Rob Zombie this year? As it was going? So yeah, so I mean, like,
I
you
had
still
no
have that
idea
going
that was
on.
happening, and then one day I was leaving and I saw it happen from the parking lot with the lights chasing themselves around the track, and I was like,
Yeah, it
what's
looks-
going on in there?
Yeah.
It I mean, like with Hang Time, it looked really good. So I'm definitely excited to see if they, again, infancy, and then we will, you know, go to sophomore year, junior year, senior year.
I have to agree.
Yeah. So the mazes for Scary Farm. What was your overall opinion?
Again, so this is where I kind of have that, you know, I understand how Scary Farm works, and they do repeat mazes. So if I've already been through the maze for 2 years in a row, I'm kind of like, change it. I'm over it. Okay. Now I know that that's not how it works, and I know that when I go into Scary Farm, I know that that's what I'm to expect. So I could have done without Paranormal Inc. Even though they changed the ending, I'm good with that. Okay. They kind of freshed it up. Trick or Treat. I have never been through Trick or Treat with the lights out, and it was amazing. I loved it. I cannot wait. I hope Trick or Treat will be there one more year so I can experience that again. Red Barn can just go to hell. Okay, because
We just got real.
and I'm gonna be honest here, because
Girls
Red
became
Barn
the View.
took over Pinocchio Unstrung.
Oh, it
Such
did.
a fantastic concept. Took over the Doll Factory. Such a fantastic concept. The Red Barn to me is the most generic maze I have ever been through, and I just think they need to change it. That is such a great place to put a maze, and such a great area to fit so much stuff in, and they just kind of, you know, blood, body horror,
Pigs.
rednecks. Okay, I've seen it, you know, like, as opposed to the Doll Factory, which is like, okay, could be cliche, but they made it, you know, Pinocchio Unstrung, super creative, and I just want to see that creativity. I want to see mazes again, like Forevermore, 13 Acts Murder Manor, and stuff like that. However,
that was, like,
that
the
does
scariest
not
maze
mean
ever.
that the mazes still aren't fun. Okay, Dark Ride was still a lot of fun. Shadowlands, I've been through it 2 years now, still a lot of fun. But the
How
two
long
new
has
mazes.
Shadowlands been there? Like
2 years.
4?
This was its third.
So yeah, Shadowlands, you know, I still enjoyed it. I kind of want to see something new. But here's the thing about Not Scary Farm. Every single time they put out a new maze, I am in absolute awe. Even if it's not as strong as previous years, it's still so creative. So creative. You know, when Paranormal Inc. first came out, I was like, what the
I know. I was so excited.
best maze that I've been through on that particular year. The Depths. I really enjoyed it.
Did you?
And I'm not just saying that because our friend Kyle was in here. I could tell him, like, oh, I didn't like the maze, but I liked him. I liked the
You
feel.
can say you didn't like me. That's fine.
No. I really enjoyed the theming on it. And I actually didn't think I was going to. I thought that it was going to be very generic, and I was actually pleasantly surprised when, you know, I saw some really creative use of lighting, some really creative use of animatronics, and just some really creative uses of sets. I actually liked the Depths more than Dark Entities, and I know that's not a popular opinion. I know a lot of people like Dark Entity, but for me, Dark Entity, it was good, again, because it was new and exciting, but it just felt like it was missing something. It felt like it was missing heart a little bit. It felt like there needed to be, and that's not saying the scare actors were bad, they were all fantastic. There needed to be something just a little bit more. But I will say this about Dark Entity, is that the lighting on that maze was fantastic. Fantastic. And they had some really cool effects in there. I liked the robots. You know, some people thought it was corny. I loved them. But the Depth had heart. And for me, Dark Entity didn't have that much heart. And I know you disagree, because you didn't. I know that you disagree. But I can't put my finger on it. It's just how I felt. But all in all, mazes for Not Scary Farm, I love them. I don't like the repeat as much, you know, because I want to see a little bit more new mazes each year, but I understand that's how Not Scary Farm works, and it doesn't really bother me all that much. But get rid of Red Barn. No one cares about Red Barn. Sorry.
Heard him. Get rid of Red Barn.
Sorry, rant over. It's just Red Barn just drives me up the wall.
So mazes. Obviously, you were in the Depths.
Yeah. So
Do you like-
that's an interesting thing too. You guys went on the very first weekend, the very first night. So like, we changed a lot throughout the season too. Going through week 4, week 5, week 6 might have been much different than going through week 1, week 2, as we all found our strides and lost people and gained people, and the dynamics changed a lot. One thing too is when you guys went through that Kraken, his eyes were white. I'm sure our running joke was that he had glaucoma. He had an actual eye effect. It just didn't turn on until week 2.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So his eyes were actually black with like an orange and green and like purple pupil.
Yeah.
And they would look around, and it looked really great. When
We have video of it. We have video of it.
We were all
Oh, I gotta
hyped
look
on-
that up.
We
Yeah,
were
we
all
have
hyped
video.
on the Kraken. Even when we first went, we were like, "Yeah, he's cool. He's a Kraken." We were like, kind of don't look at his eyes. Don't talk about it. But then when they turned on, we were like, "This is so much better. Like this changed the room entirely."
Which just goes to show why you should invest in the season pass. Keep going.
I also don't think that we turned on the waterfall until week 2, so you guys might not have seen the waterfall.
Where was the waterfall?
In that room. So the Kraken here, the waterfall was back here.
No, I
So
didn't
when
see
you
a
walked-
waterfall.
Yeah, when you walked in, you would have seen a waterfall and then turned and seen the Kraken. I got to go through Dark Entities. I'm a sucker for sci-fi things. Like, yeah, that maze could have been much worse than it was, and I probably still would have loved that maze, just because I'm really big on the settings that they use and some of the stuff they borrow from. There felt like there was a lot of Doom. There felt like there was a lot of
Dead Space. Yes.
Absolutely.
That was the first thing I thought too when I went through it. I was like, this is kind of, and I still liked it. Just, you know.
So that's my new mazes note. I love Dark Ride. Dark Ride's great. I think that's a different way to do clowns that works a little bit better than we usually see. Clowns is kind of a generic theme for mazes, and that's a good way to kind of fresh it up. Went through Shadowlands. Shadowlands is still great. It feels a little bit tired. It needs a little bit of a refresh, but it's such a different theme than you see in most haunts.
Yeah.
That I think it's something new for a lot of people every year. Pumpkin Eater, I hadn't been through last year. Pumpkin Eater has high attention to detail. That maze's sets are beautiful. There was almost no talent when I went through, so I wish that was a little bit tighter. But the maze was great. Paranormal's new ending is good, but Paranormal's getting a little bit old. They need to do something else with it, I feel like.
Yeah.
I still have never been through Trick or Treat Lights Out, so we're gonna cross our fingers and hope for that one, just because it's always got a long line. I've been working the last 2 years, so it's not been a thing I could do.
And like logistically for Trick or Treat, I'm sure it's a pain in the ass because you have to hand everyone that flashlight.
Oh,
and
the
stuff.
same as Special Ops with the guns.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
And the thing, I guess, what I heard, because I didn't get to go through Trick or Treat Lights Out either, but I heard that basically the first person in the group got a flashlight, and then everybody else got a wristband. And then at the end, you turned in that flashlight and everybody turned in their wristbands. So I think they ran out, the flashlights weren't all working or something like that, other than like Special Ops. Everybody
When
gets
did
a
they
gun.
say that happened? Because when we went through it, every person got a flashlight.
I started hearing about like people not getting flashlights like halfway through the run. I didn't hear about the wristband thing, but I definitely heard about like, oh, they gave 2 people in our group or 3 people in our group a flashlight instead. Probably like week 3, week 4.
I can't imagine how dark. Sorry, go ahead. I'm interrupting.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just wondering if things were breaking and then they were fixing them, because that does happen. Like, some nights we would have a lot of guns for Special Ops. Some nights we would have, like, you know, we'd have like 20 to 30 guns that were out.
Like typical guest wear and tear.
Yeah, it's just guest wear and tear, or
they just break things.
Or sometimes like something wouldn't charge correctly, and we can't give the gun out because it's not charged. It would just die halfway in between. So Trick or Treat and Special Ops did always have an 1.5 to 3 hour line.
Yeah, I am so happy that I got the fright thing. Oh, and by the way, can I just say that I think that the depths and I think that Special Ops were big standouts for me. I didn't talk about Special Ops, sorry.
No,
it's
it's okay.
because obviously Jackie and Brie are in there, and obviously Kyle was in there, and I was like, I knew beforehand who Kyle was going to be, so I was like actively seeking him out, and he had on this mask that it completely covered his face out, and you guys will see it in the POV, but I was like, is that Kyle? I don't know. Yeah, I was like, yep, that must be Kyle. And then it was just so good seeing them in their craft, because you guys did a really good job.
Yeah, so
You guys are fantastic, so.
shows. You didn't see any of the shows.
I didn't watch any of the shows.
You didn't see any of the shows.
Though I know who got hung on hanging.
Well, we actually just YouTubed all the shows. I actually went to Conjuring, and I watched the hanging show, and you know, the hanging show's a hanging show.
Funny.
And it's funny. It's always going to be there, and it's a staple, and it's campy, and I love it. And obviously there was better years than others, but the shows that they had this year, the dance party, Day of the Dead dance party, I guess they're gonna always bring that back. But Conjuring and Hacks, that was in the Schultz Theater.
Bring back Elvira.
You don't need to bring back Elvira, and I understand why she retired. And obviously I would love to bring back Elvira.
That.
I know, no, I would love to, but she said she's moving on. She needs to do things. Okay, so I need to respect her life.
I
need to respect her life. I know, I always do. But I don't think that the shows, I actually sat in Conjuring, I watched it, and I didn't think it was a bad show, but I don't think it belonged in Knott's Scary Farm. If I go to Knott's Scary Farm, or I go to any Halloween event, I want to see something that complements an event that I'm at. And these events were not scary. These shows were not scary at all. They had no Halloween flair in them, except Hacks apparently was like kind of touching on like horror movies, but it was improv. It was all improv. Like, and I know they said, like, you know, whoa, what's the scariest thing? And somebody was like, a dentist. Like, going to the dentist is scary. Okay. So, you know, like, this lady would, like act out with these two guys. Like, so, oh my God. I just don't think they belong. I would love to see shows like Possessed come back. That one was really scary. That was in the Mystery Lodge one year. I would love to see like Ed Alonzo come back, or just shows that are like spooky. If you're gonna have a magic show, which Conjuring was not, and there was no magic in Conjuring. It was just, the guy was very witty, and he was smart, and it was a smart show for what he did, and he was very good at interacting with the audience, but it wasn't scary, or it wasn't spooky, or anything like that. And I want shows that complement where I am. You know, like it's not scary.
Is that too much to ask?
I'm not even mad at Day of the Dead dance party. Like, you can have Day of the Dead dance party. At least it's in Fiesta Village. It complements that area. You know, the hanging is always going to be the hanging, and if you bring back these other shows, and you're adding more shows because now you can, you know, bring back the freak show in Carnival, where they actually had little stages and vignettes where there was actual people that did carny tricks, like that could like put, you know, needles through their arms, or staple themselves, or eat glass, or things like that. You know, I remember that one year. You know, bring back something like Blood Drums. You know, that was dark, but it had music to it. Things like that. That's what I wanted to see, and I know that they're trying, but I just kind of really fell flat for me.
I feel like that's one of those things, just like Forsaken, like where it's got to hit its stride again. Because I feel like having Elvira there for so long, you don't have to put a lot of effort into your shows if you have
it became comfortable.
Yeah. So you don't have to develop and like change what you're doing for your shows. I feel like they're just coming back into it, and I feel like that'll definitely, hopefully, will pick up as things go on and as things change. There's a lot of parts of the park right now that are being used for things that have been designed so they don't have to take shows in mind. Something like Special Ops at the Mystery Lodge being where Possessed was. So
right.
You can't really use the Mystery Lodge because it's in use. And there's a lot of little places like that where there used to be shows and there can't, and now there can again. And I think they need to get used to that. It's going to be like a growing pain.
I do, but I mean, there was one year where Elvira was in Schultz Theater, Possessed was in Mystery Lodge, Blood Drums was at Camp Snoopy, and then there was like something else. So you had these shows along with Elvira that were very much complimenting of the event. Do it again one day.
Okay. Talent.
I like the talent.
I'm gonna say this about the talent at Knott's Scary Farm. These scare actors, everyone who's on board at Knott's Scary Farm, treat this event like the Halloween Super Bowl. They give it their all. And I have to say that the number one reason why I will always come back to Knott's Scary Farm is because consistently every single scare actor, every single person involved in Knott's Scary Farm gives it 110%, and it is something that it's just very, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just very admirable. Like, I love it. That'll be the number one reason why I'll always come to Knott's Scary Farm, is because every single scare actor will always put that effort to try to scare you, to try to interact with you, to try to do something. There will never be a time where I'll walk through the gates of Not Scary Farm and not have someone try to come up to me and just scare me, make my day, you know. So, talent, 1,000 out of 10, 10 out of 10, A+. I can't give enough glowing reviews that they give it their all.
I'm gonna let you know that a lot of the, not everybody, and obviously not a lot of the maze monsters, because we get our stuff kind of handed to us because that's just what the theming is, but a lot of the street monsters, that's their stuff. They spend thousands of dollars on their costumes, on their masks, on their contacts, on false, prosthetic teeth, everything. You look at at some of them, and that is them.
And it's crazy too, because like they treat it like it's art. You know, it's like that's their art piece. That is like they spent all year probably crafting up this amazing character, crafting up all these little, character quirks and making their masks and their costumes just perfection for this event. And I'm sure they do that because I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, and like I said, like the maze monsters, the contacts are probably theirs, but there's also, there's a theme to that maze, and you have to wear that costume and you have to wear that mask.
But even them, though, so they get that character and they roll with it.
And they roll with it, because I mean, even you're Captain Cthulhu, but you could have had some kind of backstory to where he came from, or what particularly was, even though it's already a defined.
I feel like that was actually
character.
kind of individualized, and you probably get different answers from the captains.
Like where you were, my costume that I wore, all my gear, that was all mine. That's probably about $500 worth of gear I had on me, but I was allowed to do that because I did. And Not Scary Farm did provide stuff, but I just didn't look as good because it was just a little older. So I wanted something that would fit me. So I had my stuff, but
yeah, you guys rocked it.
And I don't know if you guys noticed. If you guys came earlier, I had an eye, and then if you came the last 2 weeks, I lost my eye, and I actually had blood on a thing. So, and I had it on and off throughout the night. But that was one of my character's backstories, that I'd been fighting with militia that whole time as well, along with zombies. So I had finally lost an eye. So overall production value and price for Scary Farm.
That one's, again, a hit or miss for me personally. When Not Scary Farm goes all out, they go all out. But, the thing about Forsaken Lake, their little set pieces were fantastic. The costumes were fantastic. Production value, though, it could take something as simple as a little dry ice and fog and lighting to just make or break a scare zone. And so I know that they're going to step up their game. I also know that I was only their opening night. So it's not a very accurate perception that I'm getting from this. But with that being said, from the night that I did go, 90% of those sets, 90% of the lighting and the fog and the production value were fantastic. But there was just that little 10% where, you're walking through certain areas and it's like, maybe they should have added something a little, like Carnival. They need to add maybe a little bit more. Forsaken Lake, they needed to add a little more. But the areas where they have those specific, like the Hollow and Ghost Town, they were incredible.
Bring back the freak show vignettes for Carnival. I'm just saying.
Carnival just needs to change.
Maybe.
Maybe not change, but they need to do something.
So overall price for Scary Farm, do you think it's worth it?
I don't offhand know the price. I know the roundabout number, but
so a ticket to Scary Farm online was like $47 to $49 if you're not a pass holder, and that's just a ticket to get in.
What's the front of the line?
Front of the line, I think you were now at 100.
Oh yeah, I think me and Arl total spent like $200 something, and we also included parking as well. And that was without the buffet dinner. I love Not Scary Farm's pricing for their variety, and they are significantly cheaper than Halloween Horror Nights, which is.
And something cool, it also included front of the line to the rides this year, correct?
Yeah, and that was a nice, I was able to ride Ghost Rider. Fun little fact, every time we go to Not Scary Farm to film a vlog or a construction update, I always go, Bree, can I ride Ghost Rider? and there's never time. And because it's one of my favorite rides, and so every time I ride Ghost Rider, I feel like
Except for like the one time that I tried to film on Ghost Rider.
that was fun. I always bug her though. I'm like, oh, okay, are we done filming? Can we go on Ghost Rider now?
I'm like, no, it's like an hour and a half wait.
Pricing was good. I definitely think that it's worth it, and especially invest in that season pass. Because then you don't have to worry about getting the Fright Lane or the Express, whatever it's called. You know, you can just, okay, you know what, this trip we're going to hit up a couple mazes, and then the next trip we'll hit up those 2 mazes. And so it's like there's no rush to it, and I definitely think that their varieties is fantastic as well.
So, worth it?
Worth it.
Worth it?
I think it's definitely worth it, but one thing to keep in mind too is that your value is going to have a lot to do with how busy the park is. If you can't come with a front of line pass and you can't come with this, that, and the other, keep in mind what days you're showing up. If it's a Friday or a Saturday late in the season, you're going to wait in long lines. It's just how it is. It's going to be every event. And you're going to perceive less value than if you had come on an empty day.
Yeah.
Just look at your calendar before you come. See if there's a day you can come that's probably going to have less people. Which seems pretty obvious, but any weekdays, any Thursdays, things like that. Then I think you can even get in without buying front of line or anything like that and probably still hit everything just fine. Don't come on a Friday or Saturday, week 5 or week 6, and expect to hit everything with a normal ticket. That's not the case at any theme park, and it's definitely not the case for us either. And I had one year that I came as a guest. It was an awful experience. I showed up like as the park opened, and it was super overpacked and overcrowded, and it was totally our fault, but we went through like 2 mazes, and that was our whole night. And if that happens, you're going to perceive the value's not there. And I feel like that's the case for any event. Keep in mind, week 5, week 6 are going to be busy, and if you're not coming with front of line, you're not going to enjoy yourself the same way you would otherwise.
And that is why on my tips and tricks video, I said if you don't want to do front of the line, get the buffet. Because you were able to hit the 4 back mazes, including the 2 new ones, and then go into the park and redo the rest and do the rest of it.
That pie.
And you weren't spending 120. You would have spent like maybe like the $49 to get in, and then the extra $31 to get food, a drink cup which you could refill all night for free, and early access to those back mazes. And so I like it. So a 1 out of 10.
I'll give it a solid 8.5 out of 10, and the reason why it's not higher is because I would like to see a little more variety with their mazes.
Okay.
But everything else was really good.
Can we give an unbiased number?
No,
11.
An 11. It was like a 20. No, I'm gonna stay out of it.
I know our viewers are gonna hate me. They're like an 8.5.
No.
No,
All right.
not at all. There's going to be people who are like, it's a 2 from me, dog.
That's true, right? I think
This is naive. I think that was one of the... No, I'm not even gonna go there. Okay.
All right.
All right.
We're gonna be talking about
Oh, here we go.
Halloween Horror Nights. Now, Halloween Horror Nights I think is more my thing than these guys, but that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna give an honest review of the event.
Okay.
So let us start off with
Here's the
overall opinions.
Overall opinion.
Would you like to start, you two, or would you like me to start?
I'll go first, and I'll say that there have been past years where I've really, really loved the event. This was not one. Go ahead.
I'm going to say that there are a couple things I do like about Halloween Horror Nights, that they wipe the slate clean and they do new mazes, even if it's the same theme. They start from scratch and work their way up. Like, that is great. I have problems with Halloween Horror Nights as well, logistically, where certain things are located and certain things inside their mazes. However, Halloween Horror Nights is just that one place in my heart that I can't seem to let go. Like, I will go there time and time again because there's just something about it, and maybe it's because I'm a movie buff and I enjoy movies, and that maybe that's something that attracts me to it. But that doesn't mean that Halloween Horror Nights is not flawed. It is very flawed, and this year I think really showed its flaws.
Okay. Yes. It is flawed, and I think where I get frustrated with Universal is the price that I pay to get into that park with front of the line, and then I have to deal with those flaws. Because I think if I paid the price of Not Scary Farm, or even the price of like Dark Harbor, and then I went in, I might be a tad bit forgiving. But to pay almost $200 and then just be like,
I think that's a
we doing?
good starting point to what I'm about to say when it comes to atmosphere and scare zones.
All right, so let's go with
atmosphere
that.
and scare zones. All right, so if you guys have been to Halloween Horror Nights, you guys do know that 3 of the mazes are in the like studio backlot area, right? So in order to get to this area, you have to go down those escalators, past Jurassic Park, past Transformers, walk through a tunnel, which is a scare zone.
Through a tunnel.
Then go into, and it's
Down a
it's
hill.
very cool
Down a hill.
to be behind the scenes, like where Back to the Future was filmed, be in the Metropolitan sets. That is cool. It is not cool, though, that we have to walk all that way to get to those 3 sets, and the walkway to get there is a scare zone. It just deflated everything for me. I was not scared walking through the tunnel. I was just annoyed that I had to walk through the tunnel to get there. You are forced to go through this scare zone, which is just
because it's either in the past years it's been the Purge tunnel, or this year it was the Toxic tunnel.
It was the Toxic Tunnel last year too.
Was it the Toxic Tunnel last year?
It was The Walking Dead, which I actually think was awesome. It was like the
Very
first
good.
year they were doing with that.
Yeah. So when I say that too, I really wish that they kind of made it so you didn't have to just fly by the scare zone in order to get to point A to point B. I wish it was more like, you know what, it's my choice to go into the scare zone and feel immersed, not I'm just walking through it and it kind of just feels like
But it's not
a
immersive.
tacky add-on.
It's a bunch of dudes in a costume in a tunnel.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I was not immersed.
Okay.
I want a scare zone where I can choose to walk in there. It's heavily themed. I don't have to stress about getting from point A to point B. I want to feel immersed by by just being in there. Toxic Tunnel did not feel that way because there was no choice. I just had to walk through there in order to get to the other scare zones, and so it just felt like an add-on. It felt like something that wasn't really I'm trying not to be savage here.
Savage.
I'm having a hard time because I love Halloween Horror Nights.
Because we knew we were going to tear this one apart, and I think we're tearing it apart because we pay almost $200.
Yes.
I paid, we paid 3 of us, we're paying almost $600 and something to get into an event. It's almost $1,000.
Just things like that just took me out of it, and as the biggest example that I could think of was the Terror Tram. When we were going through the Terror Tram, logistically, it was an absolute nightmare. They had no specific line for the front of the line, so everyone was just crowded in one specific spot. When we finally got onto the tram and were let off, there were so many people that were muddled together that there was actually, before you, as soon as you get off the Bates Motel area and you're right next to the Psycho House and you're about to go into the crashed wreck airplane area, there was another line you had to wait in.
line.
I just waited in line to get onto this experience, and now they're making me wait in another line to get into the next part of this thing.
Yeah.
Took me out of it 100%. I was so just upset when I got off of the Terror Tram because I know how good the Terror Tram could be. When it was The Walking Dead and you actually went up on the hill and it was just so immersive because it was just a straight through line. You are walking, you're hiking, you're going through the trees, it was amazing. And now it just feels like they just don't know what they're doing with the amount of people that they have walking through it. It almost seems like I really wish that they would just pace it out. I would prefer waiting longer in line as opposed to, okay, I waited a short amount of time, I'm on the tram, and now I have to wait in line while I'm in the experience.
Right.
It really made me upset. And also, if I'm being just honest here, I am getting clown fatigue. The theme was Hollywood. I'm sorry, I keep ranting. I feel like I need to let you guys speak.
No.
Go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
No, it was, what was it? Hollywood Harry.
I didn't find him scary.
And, okay, to be fair, when we got on the tram, the movie or the little setup that they showed us, that was creepy. Whoever played Hollywood Harry and the 2 actors that they had as the victims and stuff, it actually made me a little bit whoa.
But you didn't even see Hollywood Harry on the
yes you did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he was there.
Maybe not enough.
He was there a couple times, but
he was there at the very end too.
Yeah, he was there, and
he was in the beginning holding.
Yeah, he was holding the balloon, and then he was in the back. So whoever did that, kudos to you. That was creepy. That actually creeped me out. And you know what would creep me out more? If they would set up the Terror Tram, you actually got put into the Bates Motel rooms, and then they showed that to you, and then you had to endure whatever happened in the room, and then go out. That would be great. just a little tad bit right there. But that was creepy. But then again, when you got off that tram, you hit a wall of people. And then you waited to get into the maze area. And then when you got to the last part, you got out and you hit a wall of people.
Yeah.
And then we had to wait to get through that little jail part and like go through it and then just get back on the tram, and then you got brought back.
Yeah.
And I do remember having a really long hike sometimes going through the terror tram. You never hit a wall of people. You just went through it, and you were walking through the woods, and you were doing this, you were doing that, and then you meandered out, and you were finally like, I made it through it, and you got back on the tram, and they took you back, and it was cool.
So, I have a lot of thoughts on the tram. I'm thinking this year part of the backlot had to be closed or something for filming, because usually that experience is longer. I haven't been the last 2 years, so I don't know how the last 2 years have been. But I know you used to walk through Amity and you used to walk through the hills and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And all of that was gone now. This was a very like tight, short experience compared to usual. I'm used to the terror tram being like a half an hour. And if there weren't lines to wait for these little vignettes that you walk through, these like almost mini mazes, it probably would have been about 15 minutes, if that. The thing is, the tram before felt like a unified experience. Even though you'd have things that didn't quite fit, the train crash usually doesn't fit things. But I remember like the year that they did Freddy vs. Jason, they had a way to incorporate that. They had a way to incorporate the forest and the towns around it and stuff like that. There's a lot of ways that you can draw that into one unified experience. And while they had a conceit to do that, it felt like they just wanted to do a bunch of little maze vignettes for original concepts. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves about Hollywood, is I wish they would just do more original mazes. I love the movies and stuff, but there's a few that can always be cut and replaced with original stuff, and it felt like the terror tram was where they wanted to play with that.
I cannot wait to talk about Orlando for you.
And instead what they did was make a bunch of little mazes that you lined up for and went through, and it felt nothing like a terror tram. It felt, it's going to sound a little bit weird, it felt like going through a bunch of tiny houses in like the Hollow Shadows of Midsummer Scream or something like that to me. Where it was like, here's a bunch of almost haunt tech demos, where it's like, let's show you a thing, let's show you a concept or an idea, and it felt like they were gauging interest maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
pretty much
absolutely agree
100%
with that.
accurate, because good example, when it was the Walking Dead themed, that plane like crash area was such a perfect setting for the apocalypse. It made sense for walkers to be walking around that plane crash. Mm-hmm. It made sense for walkers to be walking around like the forest area when you're hiking, because it's, so that was such a great way to like incorporate everything. There was no little like samples of like, oh, you know what, like this could be like a possible
clowns on a plane.
Yeah, so it just made more sense like when it was The Walking Dead. There was one year where it was Scream, and that was a stretch for me. Like Scream,
that's tongue-in-cheek though. You're on a movie backlot. I kind of get Scream.
That
it's fun.
I could accept, but they didn't use like that meta to its advantage. They just kind of like, Scream's there, he's gonna get you.
The year they did La Llorona as a maze, they had elements of that in the tram too, and they were freaky. When you walk through the forest, and there was like child bodies hanging from trees. Yeah,
they did.
They had a few little parts that were like child bodies hanging from trees, and they were like have like a weird woman like walking through the forest, and it was like that.
Okay, yeah.
By the way, that's one of my favorite mazes. That was at Universal's La Llorona. So let's talk about mazes here, guys. All right. So, again, Universal starts from scratch, builds all the new mazes, all new things. A+ for that. We all have one pretty big criticism. When the sets were good, they were good. When the costumes were good, they were good. One big problem with Halloween Horror Nights, though, and we even said this in the maze, and you guys already know because you guys watched that video, hopefully, black rooms, black walls. I do not like it. I don't like going through a set and then a black room. Set and then a black room. Like, come on. Come on. And I'm going to let you guys take it over because you guys are going to word it better. But
the only time that I absolutely accepted the black walls this year was in Trick or Treat. Because Trick or Treat is a series of stories that all mesh into one at one point. So when you went into a black wall, you're like, okay, the principal, and you're going into that area, and you went through that, and it was seamless until you got to, the next story, and then you got into the next story. That was the only time that I was like, okay, that's fine, it works. Everywhere else, nobody else has black walls. And I just don't understand why Universal Studios, when I'm paying $200 to get into your event, you're literally putting up black walls.
And Poltergeist had such amazing sets in between the black walls, so it was just so frustrating because they literally built like looked like a functioning kitchen. You remember that one scene
Yeah.
and like the piece of meat? That was great. And then like black wall, and it's like, damn it, you know, like why does it have to be a black wall? And I don't remember
coulda
Universal doing it this much. I remember when like the year of Silent Hill, La Llorona,
The El
that stuff-
Cucuy maze?
yeah, like, you know, Alice Cooper, even like there were
All those made the Black Sabbath one, both the Alice Coopers, the Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah,
like,
there was no black walls, and I don't know why it's starting, and I really wish it would end because it takes me out of it. It's frustrating because it's like, all right, I'm gonna go through a black room now, and I know someone's gonna scare me because that's where the scares are, and it's predictable.
And they're just
the most
okay.
bad thing about any Halloween Horror Night or any horror event is predictability.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, I want to be scared. I don't want to like just be like, yeah, it's gonna happen now, and that's what Halloween Horror Nights is leading towards.
And those scares I agree are becoming predictable at Universal. You always know that it's going to be that sound and it's going to be that strobe effect that's coming out, and it's not like Knott's doesn't use some of those tactics, but for actors at Not Scary Farm, it's a choice. We can use it, or we don't have to. You know, we can throw ourselves on the ground, because if I was in the metro scene, there was a foot pedal in the metro scene where I would hit the foot pedal and it would set off the lights that were around, like in the metro, and it would have like a noise of a gun cocking and then firing off and then like kind of a splat. And I would use it and I would just come storming out sometimes, but maybe I might use it like 4 times, and then I would be over it and I would go into another area to use another scare.
I think that's a really interesting point. Like, I don't mind if they're using that trigger effect if it's not in a black room. If they're like hiding behind, if it's like a clever scare, then all right, you got me. I don't like that trigger effect when it's just in a black room and I know what's going to happen. Like, oh, okay, here we go, you know? So that was a very, very frustrating thing that I think everyone in the group, like every single person at different times, like made a comment like, why is there black rooms? It used to not be like this. However, without the black rooms, the sets were very good.
Without the black rooms,
we have to say, like, you know, Stranger Things, the special effects was good, you know, like they do a good job, and I think that's why it's so frustrating. I think it's frustrating because Halloween Horror Nights has these like glimmers of brilliance, and it's like, okay, well, you could be like the top Halloween like event if you decided to like just not do these black rooms, and I don't know why they do it.
Because even Universal Monsters, it was a beautiful maze, but the last 100 feet of it, a finale, was just black with the 4 different monsters, you know, that came out.
I want to see like a grand finale set that is just amazing. I wish that maze ended with the Bride of Frankenstein scene. I wish that maze ended with that. You know, that scene was amazing, so well thought out, so beautiful. Special
the werewolf
effects.
dining room would have been cool too.
That would have been great too. You know, like a good finale scene. And the finales are just black rooms, and that's okay. I feel like we're like bringing it up too much, but it's just something that really
but like
did.
you said, it's just an over. If it wasn't in the past, why is there an overabundance of it now?
So I've got a theory about that, actually.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm excited.
For the last few years, they've been adding an Insidious maze pretty much every year, right? That's a yearly franchise. It's a Blumhouse thing. It's a big partner, and that maze always has a bunch of black walls because it should. Insidious is
the further.
Yeah, it should absolutely have the further. It should have a bunch of darkness. And I didn't go the year before last year, but I did go last year. And there was a bunch of this was already happening. Not as much as was this year, but you noticed the finales were almost all that, with a few exceptions. And there were a few mazes that used it too much, like American Horror Story Roanoke had a bunch of rooms like that. But it feels like they took this concept from the Insidious mazes, where they would hit you at the end with the monster 4 or 5 times so that it's stuck in your head. And they use it for haunt stews, which makes sense where you have more than one character. So the last year they did Insidious was every Insidious demon. And then the finale was every demon got you with a scare in the further, and it was dark. And that made a lot of sense. They did the same thing over in Titans of Terror. The only difference was it was black with like a lighting effect in every room. So like, I want to say Freddy got red, Jason got blue, and I want to say Leatherface got green.
I can maybe almost accept that more.
Yeah, but you can see where like when you're doing a bunch of different characters and you want to hit the audience with them a bunch at the very end, that can make some sense. But it feels like this year they put it everywhere, and even last year it wasn't in every single maze. This year, I'm having a hard time even thinking of one that didn't end that way. And for you guys have been talking about the big ones like Poltergeist and
Stranger Things.
and Stranger Things. For me, where it really hit home was in the first Purge, because for backstory, I hated that movie. It's not very good.
We don't need to do the Purge anymore.
We don't need to do the Purge.
We don't need to.
But the sets are actually still cool, and I think just having a general metropolitan set where you can play with it and do literally anything, because the Purge is just modern day.
Yeah.
Like we've seen these kinds of things before, but they can still be fun. The problem is that there's no space for black rooms there. That should all be metropolitan set, because it's so easy to skin this as a brick wall as an alleyway. It doesn't cost that much to skin something with cobblestone or what have you. And I can accept in a maze where you need to change sets like Trick or Treat or like Universal Monsters or like Insidious from before, that you need to have those black walls as a decompression and to change the theme without it feeling like there's a seam, like a very obvious seam. But something like that absolutely shouldn't be the case. That should all be a city street, or like years past, like Silent Hill, that was all like school and like city stuff.
Yeah, and like Silent Hill, it's a good example too. By the way, I love Silent Hill. Because, you know, instead of using black rooms for Silent Hill, they use scrim.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I can accept that. Okay, I don't know what. It's just. Next subject.
I'm just going to touch on the shows. It's the Jabberwockies. They're cool.
Next subject.
Yeah, next. Talent. Talent for Universal.
I'm going to say this again. I did like the talent. I think that, you know, I know that they're more restricted than they would be at Not Scary Farm, and that's
I wouldn't say more. They're very restricted.
I am not faulting for them for that. I think that they work with what they can and they do their best. However, I want to see more flexibility.
And I don't think you're going to get that flexibility, because they're already.
Oh, I know I won't.
They're already playing a character that is very defined. You are Sam. You are, you know, whoever. You're. I'm like blanking now.
You're a Demogorgon.
You're a Demogorgon. You're the cop. Like,
that's true.
You're the, you
I'm
already
talking more
have
about like
defined characters.
on the streets though.
I think, and we were like, Kyle and I were kind of talking about it earlier. We're like, we feel like the streets characters are like that caliber of actor like that we have in our mazes. That's not Scary Farm.
That's not to say that they're
not.
That's not to say that they're bad or anything.
They're not bad.
But what I mean is that they're not given the same amount of developmental freedom with their characters as other ones are, and it feels like they get handed characters the same way characters that not get handed characters, where you're this thing, be this thing, with certain exceptions. Like the Trick or Treat people, that felt like that was a planned character. You're going to be this, and your characterization is going to be like Sam, but a little bit more this direction. Where like Knott's has areas that are scripted and areas that aren't, so they get to play more. We talked about the Ghost Town monsters, we talked about the Hollow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Something like the Toxic Tunnel, it feels like they've got better costumes and stuff than a maze character is going to, but their characterization's almost the same level, where it's here's your scare, do your scare. And it feels like their maze monsters are even more restricted. So their scare is you get one kind. You don't get to do more than one scare. You're Sam with the lollipop, you're going to step forward on your platform and bring down your lollipop. And it's going to be the same pace all night.
You know, when you were the sheriff in Stranger Things, all he could do was step out of a door and go, 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 go.
Now,
that's it.
That doesn't mean, though, that they didn't do a good job doing those things.
They did what they were supposed to do.
You know, so that's not a fault on the scare actors.
No.
It's just, you know, but that I do agree. But that doesn't mean that, you know, like, we're just saying that they did a good job doing those things. It was restricted.
So I want both parks to actually swap a little bit of their like big key thing with each other. I think Universal should have a little bit more sliding, and I think Knott should have more chainsaws. These are kind of the big like highlight differences in their scare zones. Is that when you walk into Universal, in Hollywood at least, I've been to Orlando, you've got a line of like 5 dudes with chainsaws that come through and they terrify people. And Knott's does a similar thing with their sliders, where I feel like there's places that could absolutely work, like the Toxic Tunnel. If you made a few of those guys sliders and you train them up, that would feel perfect. It would fit the maze or the zone so well. And part of why I say that their street monsters are very close to maze actors is because you have something like the Holidays in Hell scare zone, which felt like a maze. Like, it didn't feel like a zone at all. It felt like a space you walked out into and you walked through a maze.
Yeah.
It feels,
Just like the toxic tunnel.
it feels very much like they want to dip their toes into original ideas and like see how people react to it before they go forward with them. But I think they really need to just take that step. Like,
Because they do it well.
yeah, absolutely.
They do it well.
Every time they've done it, it's been really cool. The vignettes in the Terror Tram were cool. The Holidays in Hell thing, I think, was actually probably better than any of their mazes. As far as like just overall set dressing and like weird character stuff you didn't expect to see. I didn't expect a turkey man. I didn't expect the leprechauns or like a bald
killer
man.
bunny.
Yeah.
Easter bunny.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like creativity like hidden away in these weird spots where it's like we need to test the creativity first and like reintroduce it. But yeah, take some sliders, put some sliders in the tunnels, put some in some of the bigger open areas, and then Knotts can put some chainsaws in some places, and we can borrow the best parts of the street zones in both and make them both better. It feels like they've been evolving like in two directions and should kind of come back together a little bit more in some ways. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So production value.
So I think we should answer this question without black walls in mind. So, and then we should answer it with black walls in mind. So let's start without, let's say Universal does not have any black walls. What would you think about their production values? And I do think that Universal does a very good job at recreating the sets, and I do think that, like, especially their costume and their makeup, you guys have to admit that their costume and their makeup are fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, production values with black walls, you know, where does that lie in? And it does lower the score a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, again, and I know we keep bringing it up, and you guys are probably sick of hearing it. That's why I kind of want to verge away from talking about it so much. That Universal does have very good production values. It's like one of the number one reasons why I will continue to buy a ticket to Universal Studios is because of the production values.
And I'm just gonna buy a ticket because he's going.
And I think that, you know, this year was much more eye-opening because I went with you guys, you know, and it was just like, usually it's just me that goes with Arl, and you know, there was a lot of different opinions
being thrown around.
It kind of opened my eyes a little bit to say, like, yeah, you know what, I don't like that. And that's not to say that they didn't go in with a fresh mind. They were going in there like,
I was excited. I was really excited. I mean, I wasn't excited for the price I paid, but I was excited.
I'll let you in on a little secret. Up until I started acting at Knott's, I kind of had doubts about which one I thought was better. It wasn't until like actually last year that I thought like I could actually firmly say that I like Knott's better, but Universal was always kind of bigger for me because I love the movie aspect of it too. Like that's a big deal, and I can understand where some of their production drops because of their need to work with their IPs and how fast they need to get it and turn around and make those sets. And it's really impressive to see them do that.
Oh yeah,
the production value is very high where it's at.
Like, think of The Exorcist. You remember The Exorcist maze? No,
Boo.
but
I don't like it.
think of the sets they recreated and the special effects.
So the set that they recreated, I didn't get to go that year, but I've seen videos of it where they have the actual like monument come in, like Pazuzu statues and stuff. That is an excellent recreation of that scene.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, their attention to detail, especially when it comes to, you know, their really big titles, is awesome. Stranger Things, you can tell that there was a lot of love put into Stranger Things.
Oh, Poltergeist shocked me. I didn't expect it to be quite where it was at.
Like the what were the skull things that came down, like the giant puppet skulls things that
those were really cool.
Oh my god!
The clown springing effect under the bed. Yeah, there's a lot of great attention.
So production values is going to be like, I love it. I love it without black walls in mind. I love it.
So 1 out of 10
for production value without black walls.
Just overall.
Overall, solid 8, but it could have been a 10.
Okay. What about you?
So it's really rough. I'd put it pretty low, actually. I think because I have to compare it to past years of the event, I'd give it like a 6 just because I've seen what that park can do when it's operating 100%. I don't think it was this year. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but it feels like there have been some design choices and changes that have happened that are just not where I want it to be.
And there's sometimes that we don't know the whole story about what it is, but we can only judge it based on what we experienced. You know, we can't be a detective and be like, well, you know, it's because of this. And
speak for yourself.
Hey, I'm just going based on like what we experienced here. But yeah, I honestly, like, I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10 too. I wasn't blown away for the price that I paid. And I feel like, yes, I'm going to say this, Universal tends to be scarier.
Oh yeah.
It's scarier. Like, you go in those mazes and you stress out. Okay. But Knott's, like, I have more fun and I like the original ideas. And even if I didn't know what I know about characters and about people there, I just really love that event more.
Which is why I also want to talk about Universal Orlando when we're done with this whole thing.
I think this summation of the problem with Universal and what we see with it, what we're saying is positive and what's negative, is that Universal has a formula, but it's getting to the point where you can feel the formula.
Predictability.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, wasn't a huge fan of Universal Hollywood. Now I have to talk about Universal Orlando, which was, it blew every single Halloween event I went out of the water this year. And of course, Orlando has the space, they have the money, they have the talent, they have the creativity. Universal Orlando had 10 mazes this year, and each maze that we went through, not a single black wall in sight. The original mazes were so high concept, so well done. It was just, the production value was like 20 out of 10. You couldn't get any better than what I saw there, and I'm going to give you a good example. My favorite maze of my highlight of the whole event was Dead Exposure. And such a high concept for a maze, and if I didn't read up about it, I would be so in the dark about it, and I'm so happy that I did.
In the dark.
Yeah, haha. Dead Exposure was a maze where you are an American tourist visiting Paris in the 1980s, and a zombie apocalypse happens to break out during that time. So they hand out a vaccine that'll help you prevent from turning if you get bit. This vaccine makes you go temporarily blind. It is a side effect. So when you walk into this maze, they spray this vaccine onto your face. Everyone is speaking French. They do a really good job of making you feel like you have no idea what people are telling you. It's all the announcements. The whole maze was pitch black, and I know that might sound lazy. It is not lazy at all, the way they handled it. So what they did is they made it just enough, they put enough strobe lights in there to kind of let you know where you had to go throughout this maze. It made it so scary to not know, okay, well, wait a minute, am I going this way or this way? And they did a really clever thing where, just because it was pitch black didn't mean that the production values were low. I knew exactly where I was. There was a scene where they had, you were in, a scientist lab, and there were a bunch of, rabid monkeys all over the place. And they kind of painted the outline of every detail with, glow paint or, something that kind of lights a little bit of black light. They lit it very dimly, and then strobe light, so you kind of know where you're going, and then your eyes have to adjust. That was by far the best maze that I have ever been through. The most clever use of lighting, the most clever use of special effects, the most clever use of story, and the most clever use of the scare actors. That impressed me so. It's amazing that that's not a year-round attraction. People, And then, even with the IP mazes, you had Stranger Things that were actually in sound stages. You had Poltergeist that just, literally the facade of Poltergeist, you are going into the swimming pool and they actually built the house above you and it's raining. It was raining and you had to you had to go through the rain real quick and actually go under the swimming pool. Mm-hmm. Amazing that they were able to put this all together, and they put 10 houses together. 10 houses, they had, each one was so original, so amazing. The scare actors were having a good time, and a lot of the scares inside the mazes are triggered, but they're clever. They're not lazy. They're not in black rooms. They're in super well hidden spots. They always hit their mark really well. And then scare actors at Universal Orlando, they'll follow you. They'll talk to you. They touched me a couple times. Mm-hmm. They're so interact with you, and it just felt like a perfect blend of Not Scary Farm's originality and creativity and Universal Studios production value and IP mazes. And I wish that I could go to Universal Orlando every single year, because it just made me realize that this is what Hollywood could be, and this is what Not Scary Farm could be if they had the money and the budget and just the space. Orlando had so much space to do all this. There was another maze, I'm going to kind of rant here, I'm sorry, but there was another maze called Seeds of Extinction, and it sounds really corny. Essentially, this comet hit Earth, and plants just started taking over and overgrowing and killing everyone.
Reminds me of Creepshow.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And so, thinking about it, okay, this maze sounds really corny. This is going to be kind of silly, and you walk in there, and there was just so much to look at. There was just overgrowth everywhere, and you got wet, and it was moist and humid and sticky, and like, you know, the scare actors were so clever in there because there was no triggers in that maze at all. They just relied on you not even knowing that that person was sitting there. So they had people dressed up as plants up against the wall and would just go like that real quick. There was no need. Universal recognized that there was no need to go over the top and use a trigger. They just knew that, you know what, that person's hidden, they're just going to get scared. You know, like some of the mazes were slanted, so you were off proportion. So I just wish that Universal Orlando could just be here in Hollywood. Don't let Hollywood turn you off to going to Orlando. They are two completely different events, different styles, different feeling. You know, like all the scare zones at Orlando were themed to the 80s. So you saw, like, you know, they had like Vamp 85, which was like, you know, like during New Year's, vampires take over and start killing everyone.
Yeah.
Campy, funny. They had, you know, Prince and Michael Jackson as vampires, and it was just such a good sense of fun. But they'll also scare you. They'll crack jokes with you, and then they'll just go for you real quick. They had Chucky, who was just spitting insults at you. They had like literally a puppeteer and a guy with a camera watching you, and he was just roasting everyone. It was amazing. However, so it just makes me almost sad that I don't live in Orlando and I can't experience that every year, because Hollywood is just a pale imitation compared to Orlando.
I'm so jealous you got to see Slaughter Cinema. I wanted to see that.
Oh, Slaughter Cinema, that was the first maze we went through, and me and Al were like, you know what, this is going to be funny, campy, silly. And when we got out of that maze, we were scared. We were like, fuck, that one was the funny one? Oh, sorry, you probably have to bleep out the F word.
It's alright.
You know, like, you know, so they had like one scene where it was like the Sasquatch, the Swamp Yeti, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be ridiculous. And like, when you're in the swamp, like, I was stressed out, because I was like, these things were like, I don't know how they found a guy that was like 6-7 feet tall, but they did, and he was just... So, I don't know, you guys have to go. You have to go to Orlando, it's worth the money. But it is just as busy, if not more so. So, buy the Express Pass, and it is cheaper in Orlando to buy the Express Pass.
How much is it? Did you say it was $120?
Yeah, about like $120.
For general admission and with the front of line. See?
I'm jealous.
I believe so. Around, I mean, I did the vacation package, so I might have gotten a discount. I'm not too sure. But, yeah. But... I think the reason why Orlando has a bigger budget is because Express Pass to them does not guarantee front of the line. Express Pass just guarantees that the wait time that is posted, it will be cut in half. So Stranger Things is a 3-hour wait. Expect to wait in Express for an hour and 30 minutes. And they do that, so it's clever. They still guarantee that you're going to be able to hit up everything with Express, but they can sell more Express passes, therefore having a bigger budget, as opposed to, oh, sorry, front of the line in Hollywood, it's sold out, we only have this amount. It's just not, it's easier with convenience at Hollywood because, yep, front of the line right then and there, but for Express Pass in Orlando, like, you know, they sell more, and I feel like they just have a bigger budget because of it. So, that is my little thing. Overall, my favorite event this year is Orlando, but if I had to choose one in California, I'm going to have to say probably not Scary Farm.
Definitely not.
Are we allowed to pick ourselves?
I'm picking myself.
Absolutely.
I'm picking myself.
Because I went to all three.
Nice.
I went to 3. I didn't go to Orlando, but...
Yeah.
But Orlando does
Knott's.
win, like, in the scheme of things. It really, like, and I know that if you guys go...
Yeah.
I know that if you guys go, you guys, like, I feel like if Kyle went to Orlando, Kyle will not have a single complaint. He might have a little nitpick here and there, but he would leave amazed by Orlando.
Yeah. Alright guys, well that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining us and watching this video. It's been a long video,
Oh my
but
gosh, thanks for sticking with
like
us.
I say, hindsight is 20/20, and I love being honest about these events because it lets the viewers know exactly what they're getting into and if the price is even worth it. So stay tuned for more Fractured Compass adventures.
Yes, and thank you guys so much. I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, thank you, Kyle, for being here tonight.
Thanks, Kyle.
Kyle's kind of been with me like all day, and
Always
we've been
glad to be
watching
here.
YouTube. Yeah,
I love Kyle's insights.
I do too. So if you like this video, smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to not miss any adventures because we have a lot more coming up.
Yes.
And always be ready because you never know where your compass is going to take you.